Welcome to today's special episode of Cascading Leadership. I am your friendly neighborhood talent strategy nerd, Dr. Jim, and we are here with a special episode, and we're going to have a series of episodes that focus on job seeker specific topics. We have our first in a series of those topics, and joining us today is a job seeker that I want to introduce to our audience. Welcome to the show. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Jim. Thank you for having me. My name is Norma Montesino. I'm a daughter of first-generation immigrants, and I'm currently transitioning from a background in sales into the tech industry.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, quick couple things that I'm curious about. So you're in sales and you want to transition into tech. What drove you to that transitioning effort, and what roles are you looking to grab?
Great question. So I do have a background in sales and education, and the work that I was doing, I did notice essentially a plateau and also a cycle of what I'm seeing with a lot of job seekers transitioning careers is burnout. So that was one component of where the work is no longer challenging. I've met and exceeded goals and for a long time. And there's, in my opinion, no room to grow opportunities that were not different from what I was already experienced in. And what I am also seeing is a cycle of entry-level positions. One, mostly requiring a lot of experience to work in that entry-level role in the job postings, but a cycle of where we're not actually growing upward. It is linear and not challenging growth because it's another role that essentially is very similar to what you're doing and at times with less pay. So essentially more duties, different title, and the compensation is not aligned with being a more skilled employee.
Thanks for sharing that. So when you think about your ideal next role, you mentioned that you're a former educator, you've had some experience in sales, and then you're looking to transition into technology. When you look at transitioning into technology, what's your ideal role in technology?
Well, especially as somebody who is transitioning, so a transitioning teacher and transitioning careers, I am looking to apply my transferable skills at the moment. So I'm looking for junior roles, and that would be in the non-technical roles. So I am looking for the tech industry. I'm open to HR, project management, and anything that I can apply the skills that I already have with experience using Microsoft Office, Salesforce, and the customer-facing component that I've already had experience in to grow into a new role that would be challenging for me, but also provides that opportunity to grow upwards in a company.
That's some great context. So thanks for sharing that. I think you're on the right track in terms of some of the things that you're thinking about in the tech space. Just so you have a little bit of background in terms of my experience and background. I've spent quite a lot of time in advising candidates on their career searches. I spent a lot of time in staffing and recruiting, and specifically in the IT space, both technical and non-technical roles. So when you're thinking about, hey, how do I make the transition from a former sales professional and a former educator into the IT or technology space, you're on the right track when you're thinking, if we're talking about tech, if it's in the functional areas of project management or business analysis, that would make a natural transition. And then from an HR perspective, there are a lot of transferable skills there too. So when you look at what you want to do, what have been the challenges that you've seen in getting traction in your search process?
I would say that I have identified my pain point to be with my resume, and the specific experience that I've had is not being able to get to that next door. I'm not progressing forward into an interview for any of the roles that I've applied to. While I have received some rejection emails, I haven't even gotten through a screening process with a recruiter. So that would be my pain point, is that if I'm not able to get the experience from interviewing, even if I do not get selected as the candidate, I don't have any feedback to really navigate this job.
I can understand how that can be frustrating. And it's pretty common within the recruiting or talent acquisition function. And there's some nuance to it. It depends on also how you're applying. So if you're applying through an applicant tracking system, a lot of those are just designed to weed people out. So I always recommend that you use that as a last resort. But even if you're able to get through that, or even directly submit your resume to someone directly, Your typical talent acquisition professional or recruiter is going to spend probably 8 seconds on a resume before they determine whether it's a fit or not for any number of the roles that they have going on. So you really are fighting in some respects an uphill battle. And I think the resume is the first step in that process in getting some additional visibility or traction in your job search. It's good that we have an opportunity to connect so that we can actually work through some of the things that you should tweak or consider tweaking in your resume to position yourself to get more conversation. So we'll talk through that in a few minutes. So for those that are going to be watching the video version of it, we're going to actually do a screen share, and we're going to get all up in Norma's kitchen and talk through her resume and see some of the things and talk through some of the things that I see could be areas of improvement. You ready, Norma? And we're going to look at Norma's resume. Norma, are you tracking with me? So when I look at your resume, I think first of all, in terms of the type of roles that you're applying for, entry-level roles in non-technology spaces. So that kind of sounds weird, but you get what I'm saying. Project management, business analysis, that sort of stuff. I think this is the right length. So the issue with your resume doesn't have to do with the length of content or the length of the resume. And I could almost make the argument that you, because of the experience that you have in the world of work, you might even be able to get this to a page and a half to add more detail into your resume that speaks to a potential employer. So we'll talk through how to get to that additional length in the course of the conversation. So structurally, I think the resume is fine. One of the things that I would suggest when I look at your resume, I would say you want to lead with you being a transitioning professional. You want to really highlight your transferable skills early in your resume. So right now, the way your resume is structured, we have you have your name and then your experience right after it. I think there's an opportunity for you to add a section in there that talks about transferable skills. So when we talk about transferable skills in both your sales life and your life as an educator, what could those look like? Especially if you're targeting roles in project management or HR, you have multiple competing priorities that you're handling. So you can look at those in terms of projects. So in sales, you're communicating with multiple potential customers. You're communicating with new and existing customers. You're handling customer service and problem solving related issues, and you're doing it by phone, email, whatever means of communication that you have access to. So those could be framed in terms of dispute resolution, problem solving, troubleshooting. Those are different areas that are transferable across any number of functional areas. So that's one area that you should be thinking about, in addition to just the blocking and tackling of what you were doing. So when we talk about transferable skills, and let's just keep it focused on, say, project management or business analysis, during your time in sales, what were the things that line up with what a project manager or business analyst would be doing?
I would say a lot of honing in on team collaboration. So managing that, taking a leadership position to work with management, stakeholders, and in the common interest of the company and the product.
And you're absolutely right. So each of those could be a bullet that you add in. So you're going to add that into sort of a skills section up top on your resume, transferable skills section. But in your bullets in your resume, you want to add that in instances where you engage with multiple stakeholders, both externally and internally, in moving a process forward. That is a critical component of project management. Were there any deliverables or presentations that you needed to create or participate in the execution of your job when you were in the sales side?
Absolutely. So on the customer side, there was additional products that we were selling. So I was in the auto sell industry. So in this case, it was the extended service plan. And we did have a presentation, a personal story to go over in order to build rapport with that customer. And then ultimately the idea of adding it into their plan already. So if they were purchasing the vehicle, getting them from point A to point B. And a big component of that is finances. And trying to sell an additional product, we do want to have a good relationship first empathizing with the customer, but also with those additional products.
You're getting right at what I'm talking about, but you're talking about moving people through the sales process towards the extended service plans. But in order to uncover what is relevant to that customer, you had to ask them questions. So your ability to probe and diagnose and assess needs, those are all relevant skills or competence to what a project manager or business analyst does in the course of their work. So those are, again, transferable skills that you want to flesh out in your resume in both your sales experience and your education experience, because it demonstrates your ability to engage with multiple stakeholders, assess needs, diagnose problems, and then develop solutions based on those problems. So when we're talking about structuring the resume, you certainly want to have a key idea of the type of jobs that you're looking for. And then you want to think about the things that you did in your previous roles from an activity perspective or a competency perspective that line up with those jobs. So a good way to get that understanding is perhaps use a resource like Quora and ask a question along the lines of, okay, what does a day in the life of a project manager looks like? What does a day in the life of a business analyst look like? What are the things that they're responsible for doing? And then that gives you some context into what they're doing. Then work backwards into your previous roles and add elements where you actually executed those things in those roles. So when we're looking at your experience on the sales side, you want to put yourself in terms of bullets, tasks that you added or tasks that you executed in both of those roles. So you're actually drawing parallels to the type of roles that you want. When we talk about, hey, how do we get more content in there that's relevant to the type of jobs that you want to get? That's the exercise that you want to do. So when I look at your resume, you want to add the relevant skills section up top. Then in each of your experience sections, think about what a project manager or a business analyst typically does, and then add bullet points or add tasks, duties, deliverables that parallel what you would be doing as a project manager or business analyst in each of these sections. And then you have a resume that, even though you're transitioning from one functional area to another, one profession to another, you still have a lot of things that line up in a good way with the jobs that you're seeking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. That's the key point that I was looking for was how to speak to the roles that I'm trying to transition into.
Norma, thanks for coming on to share a little bit about what you're trying to accomplish from a career search perspective. I think the big things, to summarize what we talked about, whenever you're looking at transitioning careers, you want to focus on transferable skills, lead with that in your resume up top. And then when you look at the experience that you've had, you want to identify or demonstrate your understanding of the day in the life of the type of person that would be doing the job that you're looking for, and then incorporate those elements into your experience so that you're drawing that parallel. Hey, I might not have had the title, but I did project management related functions, and this is how it connects. So if you're actually connecting those dots there in your resume, that better positions you to actually get more traction in the interview process or get more eyes on your resume. Like I said, thanks for hopping on. It was nice to meet you and hear a little bit about your story. I will be definitely interested to see what the finished product looks like. But if you need anything, you can certainly reach out to me on LinkedIn. For those of you who are going to be listening or watching this episode of Cascading Leadership, thanks for joining us. Let us know what feedback that you have. It will be available on all your major podcast platforms, and we will be dropping this on YouTube and TikTok and every place else that you can find us. So thank you for joining us on Cascading Leadership. Norma, it was nice to meet you.